Greetings and welcome to another exciting episode of the Why I Love Disney podcast. I'm here with Easton and David, like always. Good to see you, fellas.
Hey guys. Good to see you.
It is the week of, we're approaching the week of Halloween. It's kind of crazy. You guys got any big Halloween plans?
No.
No. None at all?
No.
No trick-or-treating? No costumes?
I have no kids in the house and unfortunately no grandchildren yet. So I don't have anything for Halloween.
Do you do anything, like go see a movie or turn on at least a spooky movie or something like that? We already started a little bit, so I'll tell you about it here in a second. But I want to know about y'all first. You don't have any, like, the night of? You don't go out to eat or?
No.
Do you give candy out? Did people come to your house for candy?
We live on a highway with a curvy road, so no, we have no trick or treaters, and so we actually have some friends who live in a neighborhood, and they for years have had a big yard party for their whole neighborhood, where they have lots of candy and they show movies on the side of their house. It's a big family night type event, and they serve refreshments to a lot of people in the neighborhood and things. So we have gone there quite often on Halloween just to catch up with some friends and do that.
Well, that's awesome.
And we bought a bunch of candy last year, my wife and I, and didn't see a single trick-or-treater. So we had a bunch of candy to eat on our own.
Hey, that's how it worked out great. Well, we live in a subdivision, and our subdivision is a hot spot in our town for people coming to trick-or-treat. So we do a thing now. Our kids are old enough where we can kind of let them jump on, with cousins and things and go around the neighborhood while Danielle and I kind of stay back at the house, and we sit at the end of the driveway and hand out candy to people who come by. So yeah, we have a good time with Halloween, and I don't even know if we're way behind on the costume part. I told my kids the other day, like, looks like you're going to be making costumes this year because we just hadn't thought about it with soccer and different things going on. I told one of my kids, I said, looks like you're going to be 3-hole punch Jim.
That's perfect.
And I said he kind of didn't push back too much. It was like, and then I told the other one, you can be Dwight, you can be Jim, and you can get the whole cast of The Office going on here. And they thought that was I thought it was a great idea. I still don't think people would know who they were. So
well, you could just always wear your soccer uniform.
That's true. And my youngest Cohen,
where's the soccer team?
Yeah, my youngest has this like giant blow up blueberry costume, right? And just a blue, one of those fan ones that make him it's inflatable. And he told me that, Dad, I've been that 3 years in a row. I'm not doing that again. I'm like, dang it. When you have that many kids, you just sort of like, hey, last year's costume was so awesome. Why don't you just wear that one again? And so that the ship has sailed on that scheme. But he's kind of outgrowing it too. I will say that happens as well. But we did watch. I told my kids the other night we were watching. We're in the middle of Agatha, which I have a little update on with that too. I didn't watch the most recent episodes. I'm still one behind. But we tried to watch some Halloween theming whatever. So you'll be proud of us, David. Guess what we watched?
Ichabod.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Oh,
awesome.
We did. We watched it Danielle wasn't in there, but me and my oldest son, Wyatt, wasn't with us. But me and the 3 other boys turned it on. And to my surprise, there was other things going on, and I kind of had to talk them into it and sell them on it, but we get it going. And at first, it was a little, are they paying attention to this? Are they into it? But by the end, they were locked in, and I think they really enjoyed it. I mean, it stood the test of time. I just wanted to report that to you.
Well, very good. Hey, I saw some neat trivia on that this week, and I think it was one of the Disney websites posted something about the Ichabod Crane's horse. What was his name? And then, or maybe it was they asked what was the headless horseman's name. But anyway, I think they got it wrong, and so I started looking it up. And do you know the names of their horses?
I do not. Wait, there was one. The one. Are you talking about Ichabod's or
Ichabod or the Headless Horseman?
I don't know.
A little trivia there. Actually, in the book, Ichabod Crane's horse is Gunpowder,
Okay.
And Brom Bones' horse is called Daredevil. And so that is out of the original story, I believe. And so, but in the Disney trivia thing that I saw that one of their sites put out, they kind of had, I think they had it reversed. And so I went back, and several other Disney sites had it like the book. So if anybody has any information on which is correct, but that's what most websites say the book, that Ichabod's horse is Gunpowder.
Okay.
And
that's really interesting.
Is Daredevil, and Daredevil was actually purchased in Spain. So like there's a little bit more backstory in the original story than in the. And here's another cool thing that I didn't know: the voice of Ichabod Crane when he's laughing, like when he's got the nervous, scared laughter, is Pinto Colvig, who is the original voice of Goofy. He's doing all the scared, nervous laughter.
Well, how about that?
How would you like to be the guy? The director's like, "Hey, we need a scared, nervous laughter." I know just the guy.
I'd like to see the footage. I'd like to see the footage of him in the booth making those scary sounds. You know, like it would be fun to watch.
We're really looking for somebody to do scared and nervous. You're our guy.
Probably they had he worked with them so long they could have been stock recordings that they had from something else. Also, the guy that I think it was Oliver Wallace, who's one of their music composers and directors, he does the whistle. He does the whistle sound because they can bring all different people in to do different things. But
I will say the writing's really good, and I was struck by like the music's so good. Yeah. Like, I even after all this time, I hadn't seen it in years. A matter of fact, it was almost like watching it for the first time again. I was like, oh yeah. But man, I tell you, like we sat there and I was like, man, the music's great. It actually counterbalances the darkness, you know. Mm-hmm. So it's not nearly as like you're not gonna have nightmares, pretty much. You know what I mean? Like, as long as you watch till the end, you're okay. You know what I mean?
Well, and they put the twist on it at the end where they make it feel pretty confident that he just moved on. You know, he's got another family and when I was a kid, I loved the little lady that laughs so hysterically that's trying to get everybody to dance with her, and
yes,
that's such a great laugh. The character, whoever did that laughter is a great laugh.
We had a lot of laughs with all of that. That was really good. And I almost forgot, like Mr. Toad, man. That's a great story too.
Oh, we watched the whole thing.
We watched the whole thing. Yeah. The Halloween part is Ichabod Crane, right? But it's they're together. It's like a double feature sort of deal. And we watched Mr. Toad also, and I sold that to my kids by telling them all about the old ride that doesn't exist anymore. You know, we've talked a lot about like getting rid of old the riverboat and Tom Sawyer's Island and how that's going to change. But we've gotten rid of stuff before that's old and historic, and that's one for me. Like, I used to love that ride, and I told my kids, you'd be in this car and you're going around and you end up in hell, and they're like, what you hit a train and you die and you're like in hell. It's the weirdest thing. That was a Disney ride.
I always as a kid, this is the crazy part is, as a kid, I always thought that he got hit by the train and was dreaming that he was in hell, and then when you go through the doors, he woke up.
Yeah, I think so, because you're right. The whole idea is
I've never heard anybody say that. It's like, I thought he thinks he is, but he wakes up.
You might be right, but it was I was such a young kid the last time I rode it, right? And I actually remember this. My parents, my earliest trips to Disney wouldn't let me ride that ride. I was not allowed to ride it. And as I got a little older, I finally got to ride it, and I remember thinking, this is weird. And maybe I'm putting the filter on. I don't remember the whole ride. I just remember that part of it. And I remember it, and so like years have passed. I'm giving you a snap what my thought initial. So you may be right, David, completely that it was all a dream, but that's not what I remember. You know what I mean? As a young kid, I remember devils and I remember pitchforks and I remember flames.
The Walt Disney World version was really my core memory of that, and it is one of my big memories of my first trip to Disney World. And I don't remember being frightened or shocked by that because, again, I think I thought it was like any other movie where it gets scary right at the end, and then you're coming out of it. I just thought it was a dream sequence, even as a kid. Maybe my parents told me that. Maybe they said, "Oh, he was just dreaming." I don't know where I got it. But the original one, there were 2 tracks. So I remember being able to see it's dark, but I was like riding with my dad and my sisters with my mom, and we can see them in the other car. Which you can't do that at Disneyland. At Disneyland, you only see the car that you're in. You never even see another car because I think it was a dual track, and I don't remember how they did that, but it was so much better, really, than the Disneyland one has the great facade. You get to go into Toad Hall. You couldn't do that at Disney World, but man, and again, it was IP. Winnie the Pooh, one out, and now look, Winnie the Pooh, you don't even see them. They're not even marketing Winnie the Pooh anymore. I'm always amazed that ride even has much of a line because that was one, I've said this probably before on here, but that was probably the angriest I ever got at Disney World was our first trip with preschoolers on that Winnie the Pooh ride, and everybody's crying. I mean, the storm, the thunder. We think it's going to be finally, here's something we can all do. And the thunder is like one of the biggest things that scare kids. And it's like, oh my gosh.
You can think of that 2 ways, though. They're going to hear thunder at some point. So it might as well be in a controlled Disney environment.
Yeah,
right?
Well, no, they had already heard it. They already had a little bit of fear of it, but it was kind of like, really, could there just be one thing? Could there be one thing here for a preschooler that's doesn't have a jump scare or a scary moment or a dark room or a loud noise? Everything has a trigger, and it's like, man, it was so hard that first trip. Well, I was grateful when we got a little bit older, but between the fireworks and the dark rooms and the thunder and the witches and everything, it was like, well, merry-go-round and Dumbo was about all you had.
And teacups, but you know what's fun? But at least they didn't get hit by a train and go to hell. That's rough for a preschooler.
If we rode that, I can't remember. I'm sure we did because again, that first trip, I thought it was the only trip we were ever going to go for some reason, and
what year? I'm gonna have to look up real quick when they got that when that closed because I feel like your kids have never ridden that. It's been closed that long. That would have been about right.
In 1998, so I've never ridden it.
That's what's funny is that's the last year I had my season pass. So I graduated high school. All right, if you watch 1997, right? In my senior year of high school, I had a season pass. You want to know how much that season pass cost me?
Oh goodness,
$150. $150. And
season pass for less than you can go to.
Now I was a Florida resident, okay, but $150, and there were no fingerprints, no retinas, just had my picture on the back of the card. And I would go, we had half days. Once a month, you'd have a half day of school on Wednesdays where you'd have club days and whatnot. And every half day, I'd go to Disney World. I'd just drive over to Disney World. It was like 35 minutes from where we were at. And I'd go to Epcot one half day. I'd go to Magic Kingdom one half day. And I remember I rode Mr. Toad a lot. Because I just did. The crowds were never long. You could just jump on anything you wanted to get on, pretty much. Those were the good old days, let me say. So yeah,
that's great. That's great, man. I can't even imagine what it would have been like growing up that close to the park. I mean, I would have,
That is one of the things that it's harder to do now too. I mean, I worked had little jobs that I'd work on Saturdays. So I had my own money and I went and bought myself a season pass because I had a driver's license and I could just drive over there whenever I wanted to. I'd go by myself. Sometimes with friends, sometimes I go all by myself. And I'd ride the people mover, just chill on the people mover. I'd ride the train around the tracks. I mean, I'd just do whatever. I'd stay for a while.
Probably whatever didn't have a line.
Exactly. And the fun thing about that too is, and this is the thing that you've been enough, David, now that you probably have experienced it in different ways, but there is absolutely no pressure to get to something or do something. You can just go find a nice part of the park that, hey, I'd like to chill here for a little while and just enjoy a soda or, some sort of hot dog or whatever. And that's a whole different experience than, what I'm thinking about when I, type in, oh my gosh, thousands and thousands of dollars to go for 4 days for my family of 6, and then to feel the pressure of trying to do every single thing in that 4 days. It just makes me anxious, to be honest with you.
Well, it does, because that's not how you create a nostalgic vacation that you want to repeat. I mean, all you're thinking about is, how are we going to pull this off? And then you realize why people get into fights.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and I do think too, like if you the way you've done it, David, through the years is there's another Disney trip coming at some point, right? Right. So when you've been that many times, once a year, once every couple of years, whatever it happens to be, you kind of fall into a rhythm too that you've done everything. So now you have a priority list of things it's not as urgent to but it's a limited time, right? You still want to make the most of your time. So you're somewhere in between the two. I'm feeling the pressure. I have 3 kids that have never been. And so we'll talk more about that. I actually, we've talked about me going, I'm supposed to be, technically it was supposed to be next weekend originally. That fell through because of soccer tournaments and travel sports run your life. And then we were going to go Thanksgiving weekend, but I still haven't booked it yet for a few reasons. And we probably are just going to have to wait until the spring. It's looking like. So and then
you're going to just decide to go to Epic Universe.
Epic Universe. Well, I got the promo emails, and you could still go to Epic Universe for way cheaper than you can go to Disney.
You can buy tickets for it now, can't you?
Multi-day tickets only. They don't sell single-day ones yet. I think I need to look at that and make sure. But the email I got, the promo email, said you can take reservations. I think at first it's only through multi-day tickets, and then eventually it'll do single-day tickets. So I need to get the details on that.
I was concerned that you couldn't get a multi. I mean, I think I was hearing too much vlogger stuff, because they're all wanting multi-day tickets, because a lot of those people have passes. So they're just needing, and you can't get, I don't think your pass is good for it yet. But so they do have, for people out of town travelers, like, you can get a multi-day pass just to Epic, because that's my concern. It's like, I don't want to go to Epic one day. Like, I at least want 2 days at Epic.
Right.
I'll go to the other parks if you want me to, but I at least want to be able to go to Epic more than one day.
They are now, 1-day tickets are now available for Universal annual pass holders.
Right, that's what they added. Okay.
And that actually started yesterday, I believe.
That's not really gonna allow those people to do all of that. You can't do all of that in a day.
Right, but I guess what they're assuming is, for an annual pass holder, you probably live close anyway.
Right.
And you may go, and actually there's a limit of, the first ticket sold out. Like, they're all sold out. The first.
Well, the vloggers and all that will get that immediately.
Yeah, but there's limits. You can only limit 6 tickets per transaction. If you have more than 6 pass holders linked to your account, then you will need more than 1 transaction. Ticket prices and availability vary by day, so it's on-demand pricing too. I don't know if they're all sold out every day. I mean, it seems like that's maximum demand. I don't know what that's about. Allotment tickets for all dates, including the week of the grand opening, have been reserved for pass holders. And that's kind of nice. You know what I mean? Like, pass holders should get something. They pay a lot of money. They're your most loyal customers. Unlike Disney, it seems like we're going to talk about that in a second, who just announced a huge increase for annual passes, like $100 in one whack. 7% upgrade. It's nice that Universal is opening a new gate, and they're really doing something for their season pass holders so that they can experience the park first. It's almost as if, let me see what you think about this. It's almost as if you're Universal and you're in charge of marketing in all of this, you just kind of wait and see what Disney does, and then you do the opposite. You just go right in on the opposite. Do you not think? Doesn't it seem like that?
seems to be working for them.
right.
It seems like that quite often. I want to talk about that too. I mean, just prices going up at such a crazy rate, and it's that wow. When I want to know where they get the idea that the fan satisfaction is at a level that they can raise prices like that. They don't have anything really new coming out. I don't see a lot of positive press. Then they're raising the prices, and they're confident people are going to pay it, and it amazes me. I wonder how many people they know. I mean, they know how many probably of those annual pass holders are people that derive some sort of income. Like they buy merchandise and resell it. They're making videos. They're writing blogs.
But
How much of the annual pass holders are people that they know they've got them because they make a part of their living, and then how many are just people that love it? I don't know.
It can't be that many, right? I mean, of a percentage of, I know there's a lot of bloggers. I know there's a lot of, Disney business people. But I mean, is it that many? Like, what percentage of pass holders do you think are actually make their living some way around Disney?
I have no idea.
It can't be more than like 5%.
I'm amazed that at some point people don't go, okay, I love it, but now you're just kind of ticking me off.
Yeah. Well, I guess, and the one that went up the most is what their Credit Pass, which I guess is the full-on no blackout dates. And that one can be purchased by people living outside of the state of Florida. But it goes $100 increase to $15.49. The Sorcerer's Pass goes to a $10.79 from $9.99. Pirate Pass is up, looks like about $30. And then the Pixie Dust Pass, those are for Florida residents only for $30. But even the price increase for single day tickets, you're now y'all know the ranges. The lowest price you can pay to get into the Magic Kingdom is $139.
Right,
but it could be
that's very few days probably.
$199.
That's Christmas
$200
and holidays. Yeah,
to go to the Magic Kingdom for one day.
Yeah,
it's wild. There's a quote here from a guy. It's Gavin Doyle, the founder of MickeyVisit.com. And he is quoted as saying in this article, it's a CNN article, CNN Travel, it says, over the past decade, Disney World tickets have increased up to 101%, and the top level annual pass has increased 86%. So in a decade, the price of Disney tickets have doubled, and the annual passes have almost doubled. That's, man, it's way accelerated over the cost of inflation. You gotta say, well, thanks Biden or whoever's in charge for all the inflation. But this is way beyond the rate of inflation. This is something else entirely.
They're losing so much money on movies, right and left. I mean, they spend $500 million on a movie that they don't recoup for years and years and years and years, and then the parks suffer, even though the parks are the ones that generate the most income. I mean, that's my opinion, and that's from information that's online. I mean, Disney, I hear over and over, Disney World alone is a third of their revenue, and so they just milk it, and then they go blow money on movies that either people don't care about or aren't universally loved the way they used to make movies, and so they're in the hole. I mean, and they got to pay for Fox. I guess we got to pay for that debt. I don't know. It's amazing to me that people keep paying for things, and it's like we've talked about. You and I just had this conversation with another friend recently. When you're the economy and you hear all these things, and I know how prices are to me on everything, and things just seem to be going up exponentially. And then you hear how much people spent on their pets for Halloween. Just costumes for pets, the millions and millions, and you go, well, maybe, people have more money than I realize, and maybe. What's really concerning is is that you just realize though that when they're raising prices like that, they have one socioeconomic demographic that keeps coming. It has to be. And then there's a lot of people that will never be able to afford to go now. And you just hope that kids get a chance to go, and that you hope that, I know that was the original intent of Walt Disney. He did want people to be able to go, and he didn't want it to have that kind of. I don't think he wanted to have those kind of barriers. I think, and I wish that the sliding scale. I mean, I don't understand why you don't just say, hey, the price for a ticket is $175. Then you could say, hey, we've got this special offer in September, $50 off. So you get your tickets for $125. Then you'd feel like you're getting a discount. But when you see the sliding scale, then you're like, well, man, I don't feel like you're charging me less to come these times. I feel like you're charging me more if I come these times. Does that make sense? So It's like, to me, it's hotels do the same thing. And my wife, we were traveling recently, and because of all of the, in North Carolina, all of the storm damage in Western North Carolina, I suppose just hotels in general are in more demand. So the prices are crazy high. And then it's like, well, now you're just gouging prices because the demand is high, and you're hurting people. And that, that feels so, especially in a time like that, it just feels unkind. I mean, if they sell out, they sell out. But now you're doing things that just give you bad rapport with your customers. Like, I don't even want to stay at your hotel now if you'll raise prices like that for a room that's normally $100 a night, and you'll raise it to $400 because you can. I don't want to. I'll sleep in my car just because now you've made me so mad. I don't like you anymore. So I mean, I keep thinking, will that ever happen? But hey, we've been following this close for several years now, and prices have. Hey, we haven't seen prices really drop since we started this process. So it's just totally. People keep doing it. People keep going back.
Yeah, I totally get the idea of high season, low season, supply and demand. Right. I get it. But, and to me, raising the ticket prices is actually, personally, like a smaller issue. The bigger issues are this Genie Plus thing. So you're going to pay $200 to get into the park. And then if you want to ride all of the rides, you're going to need to pay hundreds of dollars more
per person.
Right? Per person. In order to, and there's a pressure, like an expectation that, you're just going to have to do this. It's kind of part of it. And I'll be honest, it's that stuff that seems, well, I don't want to say nefarious, but in a way, it's just greedy.
Well, and it's such a confusing ideology to me, because it's like this, we'll gouge you for every penny, but then on another political spectrum, we'll act like we're the caring people that are pushing for better stories matter. Yeah, but we're going to gouge you. Like, here's the story. We're going to gouge you for every penny. It's like, you can't be both. You can't be both. You can't be the political ideology of this, and then over here you're playing the capitalistic overlord on the other side.
Well, that's the thing. Disney has a problem, a value perception problem, right? You always talk about the famous example is like Apple and Steve Jobs. If you give me something great, I will pay more money if you make my life better and I perceive the value to be there. With Disney, I'm perceiving the value to be less and less and less, right? It's almost even perceived like this is almost, especially you got a place right down the road that seems to be all about value and seems to be capitalizing with incredible quality, and it's a lot of fun. In many ways, I won't say it's Disney's equal, but in terms of like theme parkness, it's a pretty awesome park. And so
I think a lot of we've seen that in my lifetime. Theme parks have changed so much that a lot of people could, when I was a kid, you could go to theme parks and everybody could emulate a Main Street. Was it as good? No. I mean, was the quality there? No, but they could kind of give you that oh, you're in another world, you're in another environment, this isn't your usual. I mean, they could do that, but the quality of attractions and roller coasters and parades and things, it was never the same. And now, I mean, these Universal and some others are meeting them on the same level. I mean, you can't look at something like Hagrid's or Velocicoaster or multiple or just the whole Harry Potter experience. I mean, that alone at Universal has changed the game. Disney suddenly found themselves having to compete with something that to me is still was the game changer. Universal really stepped it up on those environments like nothing Disney really had done.
Yeah.
I mean, they went into one story so heavy, and Disney had never gone into one story that heavy. And now we've got Frozen Lands and Tangled Lands and, Pandora Lands and Star Wars Lands. We hadn't had those before. So, I think never have they been raising the prices more when the value has been less. And that has been my argument through the years. It's like, well, man, it is really expensive. And I know some people think this is crazy, but man, it's just like nothing else you can do. And like for the first time in the past 5 years, I really think in the past 5 years, it's just started shifting more to go, well, there are other things. Even Dollywood has added things and added new areas, and they're changing the game too. They know they have to. Everybody's, there's so much social media now pulling for everybody's dollar that you can see all these experiences now where you can see, hey, look at these things at Universal, look at these things at Dollywood and SeaWorld and others, and man, it's. I don't know how much longer they can keep doing it, but here we go. They're gonna. I was really, sad to see this big jump again, especially with the inflation and everything people seem to be going through. And again, knowing that Epic Universe is opening and they're going to raise their prices. We'll see. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. There's a big article today in the Wrap, and I saw it on Twitter, first of all, on my way in today. The headline is this: Disney poised to announce major AI initiative, and this is an exclusive, right, from this. And it says the studio will focus the tech efforts on post-production and VFX, which is where I think you would probably, most of what we see with AI in terms of visuals and video, with companies like Runway and companies like Dolly and Midjourney and things. There's text to image. Even Adobe now has a really powerful AI generator as well. And we kind of see the world kind of moving this way. But this is the first time you see stuff generated by AI and you're like, it looks like it's AI, right? But then you start to see things like, whoa, that's pretty cool. That's kind of a step beyond. And then you knew it was just a matter of time before AI content or AI influence of some sort was involved in film and movie making processes, right? So what do you think about this? I'm kind of reading through the article, but what's your first initial thought when you read a headline like that Disney's going to partner with some of these companies to help on mostly with post-production things with effects?
Issa and I were actually talking about it earlier, but I think the thing that Disney has always pushed ahead. Like in the old days, everything was done by hand. Everything was drawn by hand. Everything was inked by hand. It was painted by hand, and then Xerox comes along, and suddenly they don't have to trace those drawings anymore. They can just take the animator drawing, Xerox it. They still have to ink it, but and paint it, but they don't have to trace the original pencil drawings onto cell. I mean, so a lot of money saved. And eventually, everything they don't have to do any of that by hand anymore. It's all computerized. Then they start drawing with computers, and so, and with all those things. Things are going to be cost effective. They're going to move faster because you take the human element out. that takes time. The computer can do things faster. And that was the greatest thing about computers when they came out, is they can compute faster than a human being can. Now they can work faster than a human being can. So that's good as long as it's taking what a human does and it's enhancing it. But then I think when computer animation started, Toy Story, Bugs Life, all those, the animation crowd was thinking, well, the computer's just going to do it now. But that wasn't the case, because the computers didn't have the ability to do that. It was people still have to use these tools to draw, so you still get great stories with heart. But now we're at a stage that the computers have learned to create art. They can look at all of history, from art, music, story, and a computer can generate whole movies. So now we're in a place that you go, what if AI learns to just create great art that's better than humans? Will we like that? Will we be amazed by that? Will we be amazed by the art, or will we be like, well, of course it can. It's a computer, and go, but what's really amazing is when a human being does that just out of their head. I don't know what I said. I told Easton earlier, I said, I think we'd all be skeptical of it, because it won't ever have, the amazing thing about art is not just the art, is that a human being had the talent to come up. And that's whether it's a painting or a song or a quilt or a cake. It's like, wow, you did that. Great job. That's awesome. That's what we love. We love to see other human beings do things that are inspiring and amazing. And so if the computer's doing it, it's like it's entertaining, but I don't know that it has the same. At that point, you're going, wow, somebody taught a computer to do that. That's the only thing to get excited about, right? But I said the moment that a computer writes Harry Potter, and it's that good, and you go, well, there you go. I guess we'll all love it. I don't know. I think it will. I think AI will have to do something so good that everybody goes, yep, it's better than humans can do. So we humans will just get everything from computers now, because we can't do it as well. Then, that's kind of sad. Because that's the whole joy of art, really, is that you're amazed that Michelangelo sculpted that, or Leonardo da Vinci painted that. Not just the painting, was that somebody had studied and crafted and perfected and spent their lifetime honing this craft, and they created this thing. You're amazed by it. And I don't know that AI can. Will I be amazed by that? I don't know.
I guess time will tell.
Am I amazed that a car goes fast? No.
Well, the engineering behind it is a marvel.
A human created that. A human went. It's like that's when you go. Wow, that's amazing they did that.
But did you see the rocket that landed and that got caught by the tower? Right.
Yes.
And there are things like that you see, and you're like, oh my goodness.
Yes,
we did that. You know what I mean? It's kind of, even though it's technology, it's a work of art, right? In and of itself.
It is.
That we figure things out.
Definitely it is.
And let me. I actually tend to agree with you. And for that, there's nothing to disagree with, really. The question you're asking is will we ever be moved by a piece of art that a computer makes? Right. I don't know if that's the right way to think about it. Maybe, perhaps. You think about Leonardo da Vinci, where did he get his paint? Where did he get that canvas? What tools did he use to make that work of art, right? And what if he had an Apple Pencil and an iPad and processing power that we have today? Or in 20 years of quantum computing and an AI, what could a mind like Leonardo da Vinci accomplish with that? And you start to think that with all of this AI, I think our biggest fear is ultimately the computer's just going to do it all for us, and what will we even do? But I think there is a part too where at least the engines as they exist now, the human element is still there. Like, for instance, you have to input into it what you want. That's a skill. Then you have to take what it does, and then you have to edit that and rearrange and redo and try to get exactly what you want to fine tune it in such a way. If you ever use Midjourney, you could spend hours trying to just either think of new stuff or try. I've done this before where you try to, like, for specific needs and purposes, like I need an image that's like this for this reason, and you just spend hours trying to tweak and tweak and tweak to get something close. You're like, no, but it needs to be like this, and it's not quite there. And you think what it's going to be like in a year or 5 years or 10 years, right? But I'm still in it, and I still at the end game in the one that's editing it, right? Too. I actually feel like it's more a tool that is going to unleash an incredible amount of human creativity, because at the end of the day, the humans are the consumers, I think, right? And you're exactly right. If something is lifeless and just like, I mean, you remember when all those AI generated images were popular, like about a year ago, where everybody's like they were kind of cool for a minute, and you make them your avatar for a second, but then after a while, like, oh, that just looks like AI, and you're kind of moved on to the next thing. You know, I feel like I do. Remember when the internet was going to take over and change it and going to take all the jobs away, and the internet's coming and did it? Well, I bet some jobs went away because of the internet. But how many more jobs has Amazon created, even though they shut down Kmart? Does that make, you see what I'm saying?
Well, yeah,
like we adapt.
And the same argument, that's why I said, you know, Pixar comes along and starts computer animation. Well, it's really a whole different thing than hand-drawn animation. You can still do there. You can have both. One's completely hand done. One uses tools, computer tools to do it. If we didn't have those, we would have never had the plaid probably on Woody's shirt, because you can't really hand draw that without taking years and years and years and years. A computer can figure out how to draw that. I mean, it's like, so you suddenly do things that a human really couldn't do. I mean, but that was the ingenuity of the old animators. They had to figure out, what can we do? What do we have? And then create this amazing art.
Right.
And so, so it's all just figuring out, how to create it with the tools that you have. I definitely agree with that. I think that I just would never want it to be completely auto-generated. Like, I don't want to hear, even if a great song, a computer wrote a great song, I don't know that I want to hear it. I just don't know that I want to hear a song that a person didn't do.
Well, I think there's something to the human experience. This is one thing I think AI will never get. Right? You and I, we could write any song of any lyrics of any genre, right? And then we could get our guitar or our piano and go perform it and put that performance on YouTube. And it might work or it might not, but here's usually what works and what doesn't. When, Dolly Parton sings Jolene, right? You believe that. When Coal Miner's Daughter, Loretta Lynn, you believe that, right? Because she's lived that, right? Chris Stapleton, there's certain things that when people do it, it matches their, even you could say Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and some of those early, 90s hip hops. You were just immersed into their world with their language, and only they could do it, right? And anytime someone tries to a cute pop song that, you get the 16-year-old girl who's singing about some like divorce or some heavy subject. She's never lived it. It, right? And it just doesn't land right, even if you could make money on it. And I think like the discerning human, that's what makes something amazing, is the ability that you believe it. And I do think that's what we'll be missing from AI, is the believability of making art itself. And I actually think that's what I'm talking about. I think AI's role, we don't know what its role will be, like we didn't know the internet's role in 1995. We had ideas of what the internet might be 10 years from now, and we knew it was going to be revolutionary, but most of the things we thought in 1995 might have happened, but not in the ways we thought they were going to happen, right?
Right.
And I think AI is going to evolve into like a tool that artists use to make something. And I think any efforts for it just to hit a button and generate new content, I don't think that's going to work. That's my opinion. I don't know that. It could get so good that maybe it could write Harry Potter, in 10 or 20 years. I don't know. But I still think there's something about being human.
I think there are tools, but I still think that it's, And there have been prompts, computer prompts for, again, 30 years. Like if you have to write a paper, you can go get a prompt from the computer to give you a good idea for a long time. You can use there's tools like thesauruses and books that are written on prompts to how to write better things. So there's always been stuff like that. I think now though it's just that the only concern, they're all tools, but the computers now have the ability to assess so much art and so much history that they can create things that you wouldn't know if they could be copying something and you wouldn't know.
That's true. But that's what songwriters do every day.
Yes, and they often get sued in court.
No, but the best ones admit it, right? And like that's not a secret.
Yeah, but it's kind of weird to me now because like people write songs and they just go ahead and say, "Hey, I took this part of your song and I'm going to write it and put my name on it." And because really, it's not about it's like, oh, that's when it starts to look like, well, what you're really selling is celebrity. What you're really selling is yourself, and this is going to work for you and your fans. But if it wasn't you, I don't know.
What was the quote? Who do I attribute the quote to that said the greatest artists are the greatest thieves?
Well, I don't know. That's been around for.
Yeah, I know John Foreman. I heard John Foreman, the lead singer of Switchfoot, say that first, but I know he didn't. It didn't stay up forever. But I think it was in a book.
I'm sure that great literary people have been saying that forever because that's what you go to if you're a writer. And say you write screenplays and you go to see a great movie and you're watching the story and suddenly you go, well, what if he hadn't done that? What if he had done this? And suddenly you've written a whole new story. Well, that doesn't mean that you plagiarized that story. You just had an idea based off your experience and you went and wrote it. But if I go sit down and I go, hey, I'm going to write this story about a kid who finds out he's a wizard. And he goes to this magic school, and I'm like in scary territory because that's just been done so well. And how am I gonna write that story where I don't trip all over hers?
Derek Thompson, he has a podcast called Plain English. He wrote I found out about it because I bought a book of his. His first book was called Hitmakers. We've talked about this before, David.
Oh, yeah. That's a good book.
He talks about what are the commonalities. Why does something become a hit and why is something obscure? And he talks about how it has to be familiar enough but just different. And he brings up George Lucas, right? He wrote a Western, a plain old run-of-the-mill thing everybody likes Western, the same old story, and he puts it in space. And you have a blockbuster, right? So I think... I think kind of what we're talking about is this idea that to do something new. But to bring it back to this article too of what Disney's doing, and a lot of people think we're now in a conversation about creating art and who this will replace, about actors and writers and things like that. But they're not using it for that right away. This is more for post-production and effect stuff, which there are artists that deal with that too. I don't want to say that, but there are, let's say in music production, which we're involved in, there are a lot of tedious things. I mean, just hours spent like clicking buttons and moving things around like that just drive you crazy. And a lot of the reasons some people don't do it. Some people love it. It is kind of a bit of a science and a bit of an art altogether. And I've thought too, at doing some of those things, if there was a button I could push that could automatically do the vocal tuning that I'm doing, or do the editing that I'm doing, or do the crossfades that I need instead of going every single one. You know what I'm saying? Like, how much time would that save? And not only that, then if it took me 1/10 of the time to do that task, then I'm free to create something else, right? My bandwidth is now, and actually, what if AI is going to be the thing that just allows us to increase our bandwidth to more creative and kind of let human beings concentrate on the difficult or the fun or the creative stuff instead of getting bogged down in the mundane and the processes, right? I don't know.
Well, I think that's what you would hope that technology would do. Again, it would be a tool that go back and watch a science fiction movie from 40 years ago versus now. I mean, it's so much more enriched and realistic because they can do things now that years ago it was a model dangling from a string that they had to photograph just the right way to make it look right. So yes, you're hoping that they can create all these things, and it's human beings going, "What if this?" It's just we'll have to see how much of it becomes human and how much of it becomes like, "Oh, I didn't even have to create the Millennium Falcon; the computer just did it." I mean, think that somebody sat down and modeled out that Millennium Falcon that everybody, so many fans know every little nuance of, and can tell the difference between a real one and a fake one. I mean,
yeah.
And that somebody, whether they just made it up or not. I mean, that's so fun to watch those, how they did Star Wars, because they didn't have any of that. And so they're like, we made that out of a ice cream maker. We
puppets and
we put these things together, and this was just really, this is all it was. But your brain sees something completely new and unfamiliar, and it was just like parts they got from an airport or wherever the airstrip yard. So, that again, that's what's so fun. And I will say, one of the saddest things to me from an animation standpoint, you can go back, and I'm so grateful that people thought in the 80s and 90s to get those, like Disney's old 9 men, to tell these stories about how they drew this and why they drew it. And you can go, people sell this stuff. You can buy these, because millions of drawings are created for an animated movie, and every pencil frame, every frame was hand drawn. And multiple people might part of this. In this frame, this guy drew Maleficent, and this person drew Aurora. Then it was all put together. So multiple millions and millions and millions of drawings, and they all sell. And like every one of them sells for hundreds and thousands of dollars. And that's just those sketches. Put some ink on it, and now the value goes way up. And you rarely ever see any art for sale since 2000.
That's a great point. It doesn't exist. It's all on a hard drive.
There's nothing to. Now we fabricate it, and we go, I'm going to create some digital art, and I'm going to sell it. I'm going to call it limited because I'm only going to let 100 people buy it. And it's like, well, this actually really is limited because there's only one of these made. These guys drew it one time, and that's it. That's the only one there is. They might have drawn it multiple times for different scenes, but I don't know. So you kind of come down, you go there. What is digital art? Is it real? Is it just out there? But there was a time when
it's real. I could take a picture of that cell, and I could make a really high picture, and I could blow it up as a poster to make it just as good, look exactly like the original, and I can put it on my wall. But what's the difference?
I can't smell the paper, and I can't smell.
No, you can. You can smell it. You print it out. You smell the paper. You can still do that. That's the thing. Like digital art. Actually, I was going to make that point too. Is like we've gone from digital artists, people who make art for video games and comic books and these Pixar movies now are geniuses. It's just a different set of tools, right?
It is.
I know what you're saying, David. It's a different. I kind of. This is where I would kind of jump on your side here. We were at the Vatican this summer, and you see those statues, these breathtaking statues, and here they are, like and you could 3D print a replica of that, and I could put it in my living room,
right.
But it's just not the same.
It's not there. Yeah,
it was not even the value. Even just looking at it, just what makes it so amazing is that you knew somebody was cutting that with a rock out of a rock.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, I know exactly what you're saying. You're exactly right. That there's no even though 3D printing is cool, and if you wanted to replicate, I don't know, the Colosseum, you could probably do it with the computer program and whatever, but it's still not the same.
Well, and I'll go back, and maybe this again. I'll go back with this another old statement that people always say, whether you're a songwriter or a book writer or an artist, that there's nothing more daunting than a blank page. You got a piece of paper and a typewriter or a pencil or a paintbrush, and there's nothing there. And you take a piece of paper and you take some and you create something. Now, if that's what AI artists are doing, and they're taking those tools, but now I can go, computer, draw me a picture of this, and it'll just draw it, and then you can just edit it. Well, that's a whole different thing than going there. This was a blank page, and I did this all by myself,
That's
or
true.
the computer did most of it and I tweaked it. That's, hey, but it's about entertainment. I mean, and most of this, it's about entertainment. It's not about art.
Yeah.
It's not. It's of all the entertainment out there, very little is going to really be great art.
That's a great point.
And even that subjective. I was just reading about somebody the other day. I saw an obituary for an artist. Actually, the guy that sings the Love Boat theme just passed away. And I saw that I saw this little bio on him, and I think it called him a Grammy winner. And I was like, man, this guy had 50 albums and several #1 songs. He won Grammys, and I was like, the guy that sang I didn't realize the guy that sang the Love Boat had done all this, and like just realizing like things move so fast. There's so many songs, there's so many artists, there's so many movies, so many stories. You can't even process it all, and
right.
so much of it is going to be like a snap of the finger. It's going to be 15 minutes of fame for somebody. They're probably going to make a lot of money, and then 30 years later, people are going to be going, "Who's that?" I saw a clip the other day that they have this little video going around where they show this kid, Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, and he doesn't know who they are. So I mean, even you can be at the top of your game, and there are people that are going, "I don't know who that is."
Yeah, that's true.
So that's the way art's going to be. It's about entertainment. It comes, it goes. It's even, and I just looked last night. I went through. I started going, how much of what Walt Disney created is on Disney Plus? And do you know most of the live action movies that he created in his lifetime aren't on Disney Plus? There's a few. There's Old Yeller, Treasure Island. The big ones, Pollyanna, with Simon Robertson, but a lot of movies he created, they don't even find worthy to put on the website. That
you know what else they don't find worthy to put on the website? All the content they created in the first 2 years. Like, you can't find any. The Mighty Ducks isn't even there anymore. It's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
And they replaced it with Hulu.
And I look on there and I go to Disney Plus, and it's like American Horror Story.
Yeah.
There you go. Like, this is not what I signed up for.
Is that a ride in Fantasyland?
Yeah.
American Horror Story? Oh, yeah. Only Murders in the Building?
Yeah, that's what they'll end up putting in Hollywood. That's what Hollywood studios will become. They could do a Hulu land.
Dude.
Ooh.
Now they're actually thinking there. You know what I'm saying? We're probably moving that direction. Well, anyhow,
just throw everything over there, and
I do think I'm fascinated with AI and where it's going to go. I'm also fascinated at using it with a tool. I don't think there's a day that passes that I don't use some sort of AI, whether it's ChatGPT or Midjourney or I don't use it a lot yet for music. Man, I do ask it for lyric ideas. I give it lyrics and say, hey, is this strong? Man, there's so many ways. It's almost like ChatGPT has become my assistant, right? I have conversations with it. In a way, it's kind of geeking out. In a way, it's just so exciting that, to me, I see it like what Google was 15 years ago or 10 years ago, whenever it kind of went mainstream, and how that changed our lives. This is going to do the same thing. I'm just not really sure how yet. So, anyhow, that it's going to be fascinating to see.
Hey, I guess great works of literature like War and Peace and Great Expectations, they could have been like 10 pages if they'd had.
It's true.
They'd had AI. They could have said, "Hey, make my story shorter."
Yeah, give me the Cliff Notes. That's true.
Well,
yeah.
So this isn't a 70-hour book. Condense it down for me.
Oh, dude, you could do you want a synopsis of a great novel? Just ask ChatGPT. Hey, in 500 words, tell me what this is about. I mean, kid, you think we know where this goes? Kids in high school and college, man.
Well, I know that. I mean, yes. I mean, the synopsis. I mean, we had the Cliff Notes and the Spark Notes and all this. We had to buy them, but even when I was a kid, we had that stuff. But before it was online, but now it's all free.
Absolutely.
But yeah, but that's a different thing than just creating it from nothing. So we'll see. We'll have to see. It'll be amazing to see if AI can create art that people think is better than what the human being can do.
It will be interesting to see. One day there's going to be something that is as popular that is. But just because you already made this point, just because it's popular and successful does not make it great art. So we all remember that. So,
that's going to be on my billboard.
We'll put it on your tombstone, David, one day. Guys, we're an hour into this, and it's been fun. These discussions are actually ones that I kind of am really interested in. So I'm glad to get your perspective, and I'm really interested to see. The announcement hasn't been made yet. This is a breaking of that. There will be an announcement made. So maybe in a future episode here soon, we'll get the announcement and can actually see what they say they're doing with this. I know there's implications too with the recent writer strikes. That was points of contention, had to do with AI and had to do with content creation and streaming and some of the things. And I know people are freaking out thinking that this inevitably leads to the end of their jobs. I don't necessarily think that's the case, but here's what we do know. If Disney, well, any studio, but especially Disney, has a chance to cut costs at the expense of the consumer or their employees and make shareholders happy, I think they're going to do that. I think that's where we're at with them at this point in time. So,
I think my final thought, because I've had so many that I keep saying this is my last thing, but the other thought is going to be what the next generation wants. Because the next generation, I just saw something recently. It was talking about that even one of the younger generations already is wanting something different than they've seen. Like it's like music. As fast as you think you're making it for the kids, there's another group of kids that come along, and that's all they've ever known.
Yep.
And so the same way with art and same way with movies, like a lot of the values of movies in the past, this next generation could come along and go, I don't want any of that computer generated stuff. I want to know that. It's kind of like when, used to have songs that were written by songwriters, and suddenly the expectation was, I don't want to hear you sing the song somebody else wrote. I want to know you wrote it, and it's really your story from your heart. And so we got that expectation. So the next, again, this could happen with they can
I don't want CDs. I want vinyl. Bring back the vinyl. Yeah.
I don't want to hear I don't want to see a story that a computer wrote. I want to know that you wrote it all by yourself, and you got to prove it.
Yeah.
That's going to come. We'll have to prove that we really wrote it without the use of computer aids.
No, the AI is going to be smart enough that all you got to do is ask the AI, was this created with help? And it'll tell you. Like, there's no way to fake it anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
wow. That'll be really scary, because you'll say, no, I did it. I really did it. And the computer will be saying, no, you cheated. And you won't be able to prove that you didn't. See, that just sounds like a story. That sounds like a movie right there.
Yeah.
You should go write that script.
There you go. Well, it's always fascinating. We'll see what happens. But guys, we've gone on a little over than we normally do, but it's always fun. I'm all about it. So anyhow, I love you guys. I mean, I didn't mean to say that.
Well, that's nice.
I love our time together. I mean, I do, but I love our time together every week. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know at whyIloveDisney.com what you think about this AI initiative that's coming out with Disney partnering with some of their effects people. What do you think about the price increases? Are you sick of it? Or you just have so much money you're like, hey, charge me more. I like paying more money. We'd love to hear from you. We like all opinions. But until next time, goodbye. So long. Farewell.